Hi, and welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And in this episode, we are doing another duel match.
Yes.
It's Steel versus War Machine.
It's going to be a great episode. I love these two characters so much. I think they have a lot in common. Like you said earlier in our past episode, it's almost like Superman versus Iron Man. Although it's more of like a depowered Superman versus Iron Man, which is more even keel, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, we're doing this episode coming off of the Reign of the Superman animated film and leading up to Avengers Endgame, which War Machine will be a part of. So but before we get into that, we're going to break down the news items from the past week relating to Marvel and DC movies and television. Not too much to talk about. Bob Iger has promised more R-rated films like Deadpool under like a new branded Marvel banner. The Justice League versus the Fatal 5 trailer has come out.
Yeah, and that's the next DC animated film that's going to come out.
Right. An Aquaman spin-off film based on The Trench is apparently in the works at Warner Brothers. And we're going to cap off the news with our take on the Doom Patrol trailer.
As always, you can go ahead and look at the show notes to go ahead and skip to the topics that you want to listen to. We want to give a huge shout out to everyone who has rated us and reviewed us on iTunes. Again, we're looking to get to 200 ratings on the Apple Podcasts and iTunes platform so that we can become official critics on the Rotten Tomatoes site. All we need to do is just hit 200 ratings on that, and then our reviews can count towards the official Tomato Meter score for the Marvel and DC movies that we review.
Right. We're at 73 ratings right now. We didn't get any new ones from the past week, which I kind of saw coming because it's been tapering off kind of slowly but surely.
Yeah. Only so many people listen to us on iTunes.
Right.
And Apple Podcasts.
And again, it doesn't have to be a review. It could just be a star rating.
Right, yeah, and that would totally help, and we would super appreciate that. And with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize.
A No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media. Jonathan personally draws for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was, who do you think should play Batman in the Matt Reeves directed film now that we know Ben Affleck is not going to be in it officially?
Right, and when I was trying to decide like what the best answer for this was, I was trying to approach it from the viewpoint of I'm Matt Reeves. I know that I want to cast a younger actor to play Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
So from that viewpoint, we chose the winner. Honorable mention, though, will go to Carol Cross from Twitter, who gave the answer Oliver Hudson.
Who's that?
It's Kate Hudson's brother. He's a good actor. He's not as well known as his sister, but he's a little bit older. He's 42.
Oh, so I think might be too old.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Adam Spees gave the answer Carl Urban.
I love that answer.
Which I love that answer.
A little bit too old, though.
Again, a little bit too old. I think he's around the same age as Ben Affleck. So.
Really? Carl Urban would just be so great as Batman.
He would.
Man, he looks exactly like how Bruce Wayne would look, I feel.
Yeah. Caleb Albers gave the answer Wes Bentley, which I also really like that answer.
That's a good decision, too. He kind of let me down as Blackheart in the Ghost Rider film, the 2007 one.
Right, and Caleb mentioned that.
But otherwise, everything else that I've seen him in has been fantastic. I do like him as an actor.
And Caleb mentioned that he's only a few years younger than Ben Affleck, but he also said that he could play like a younger age range, and I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Joel Seagrave gave the answer Joseph Gordon-Levitt or Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig is probably out of the running since he's older, and we know that they're looking for someone younger, but Joseph Gordon-Levitt's not a bad choice. I think he could play younger than what he is.
Yeah, I think he's younger than 35 right now. The problem is that might lead to some confusion.
Like it might be like a spiritual successor to the Dark Knight films or something.
Right. I think people would be like, wait, wasn't he Robin? Maybe. I don't know. What? I'm confused. Oh, no.
Congrats to George Karnitis for giving the answers of Matt Bomer or Garrett Hedlund. And I love both of those answers, actually. Matt Bomer was once in the running to play Superman. He looks exactly like Henry Cavill, in my opinion.
Right.
I think he'd make a fantastic Bruce Wayne. He might be a little bit old as well. Garrett Hedlund is probably right in the age range that you want, and we haven't seen much of him ever since Tron Legacy. I think he would make a fantastic Bruce Wayne. He would be my vote, actually. That was the one that I wanted to go with.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Matt Bomer is currently playing Negative Man in the Doom Patrol series, which we'll talk about later.
Right.
Jacob Bell gave the answer Robert Pattinson from the Twilight series.
And I've actually seen that elsewhere suggested. There was a rumor going around that Robert Pattinson is actually in the running to play Bruce Wayne.
And I don't hate that answer. Like,
I've never
honestly,
seen the Twilight
It's
films.
been so long since Twilight.
So I don't know.
To me, it's not a big deal. It wasn't my favorite answer, but I don't hate it,
I mean, people are over the Twilight thing now, right?
I suppose.
Yeah, again, I've never seen the films. I don't know.
Mitchell,
No, I'm just kidding. They're my favorite movies of all time.
I know. Mitchell Phipps gave the answer Hugh Jackman, which, like, I could totally see. Like, to me, honestly, anyone who could play, like, a good James Bond could probably play a good Bruce Wayne.
Right.
And I could totally see Hugh Jackman as a James Bond.
Well, he's a little older now.
He is a little older. Not a little older. He's a lot older.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But yeah, he probably, when he was younger, would have made a terrific Bruce Wayne.
Definitely. Congrats to Jonathan Hazelton, who gave the answer John Krasinski, which was interesting. I remember being in his camp so much when he was in the running to play Captain America, because I thought he'd make a fantastic Steve Rogers. And I think a lot of his work on the Jack Ryan show has really proved that he's capable of being an action star. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how old John Krasinski is at the moment, but I think he may be just beyond the age range that they're looking for. I think he would make an interesting Bruce Wayne.
I don't see it, honestly, personally, but I haven't seen the Jack Ryan stuff.
You haven't seen clips of it or anything?
I think I saw a trailer.
He's pretty badass.
That's cool.
You never saw, like, 13 Hours, that Michael Bay film?
No.
He's pretty badass in that, too.
Bodo Winter gave the answer Donald Glover.
He wouldn't be like your typical Batman that we know from the comics and everything, but he is a fantastic enough actor.
You know, they make Robin black in the Batman Returns film.
Yeah, with Marlon Wayans in the running to be Robin, right?
Right. He was actually cast for a while.
Marlon Wayans is such a comedic actor, and I guess so is Donald Glover.
These last two answers, I think, were joke answers. Jeremy Orr gave the answer Christian Bale, which, yes, absolutely, the perfect Batman. Totally.
15 years ago. And CJ Kraft answered Danny DeVito, because the Penguin... I don't know why.
I don't know. Final honorable mention goes to Victor, who says Batman should be played by me, Johnny DC. Because, you know, who better to play a millionaire posing as a playboy who moonlights as a superhero? Those are his words, not mine.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
Very honored. Very honored. I could act. I could totally do this job.
No, you
I could be a thespian.
No, but great try, Victor.
Yeah,
that was
great. Nice try.
But the winner of this week's Dynamic Duel No Prize goes to Ken Johnson for his answer of Liam Hemsworth. Why do you think Liam Hemsworth would make such a great Batman for Matt Reeves' film?
Well, not only is he, you know, on the younger end and can definitely play young, but he just has like these sleek, like handsome features to him, right? And when I think of my ideal Batman, I think of someone who is like sleek and stealthy and like ninja-like. I think he could pull that off.
You think Liam Hemsworth is ninja-like?
I think he could be if he was wearing like a black mask and like a cape.
Okay. I don't know if I see him as a ninja, but I definitely see him as like a wealthy playboy type.
Yeah.
Who, you know, he's pretty buff. I've seen him in a couple movies like Independence Day, Resurgence. I think that might be the only film I've seen him in, actually.
You never saw The Hunger Games?
I saw the first Hunger Games, but he only had a small part in that movie.
Yeah.
I know he had a larger part in subsequent films, and I guess he was pretty badass from the trailers, it seemed like. So, yeah, I could see him doing this. This is kind of like a Robert Pattinson kind of answer. I'm not sure who I would prefer more in the role between Hemsworth and Pattinson.
They're both kind of pretty boys, right?
Yeah, kind of. But I guess I'd go with Hemsworth, considering that he's taller and probably capable of putting on more bulk.
Cool.
But yeah, that does it for this week's No Prize. We're going to go ahead and ask another question of the week later on this episode, so go ahead and stay tuned if you want to win a No Prize as well.
On to the news.
So Disney recently held its first quarter earnings call with its investors, and in that meeting, it was revealed by Disney CEO Bob Iger that future Deadpool films that will be made by the studio will be keeping the R ratings that they've had for the first two films.
Right.
Now, I know that they experimented going PG-13 with Deadpool with the Once Upon a Deadpool film that came out to theaters a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
But apparently, I don't know if it didn't do well enough or if it just didn't track well enough.
Well, it did well. I think it did really well, actually, for the 13 days it was out.
Really?
Or the 12 days?
Well, yeah, I guess both movies combined have made over $1.5 billion now.
Yeah, it's the highest grossing X-Men film ever made.
Yeah, so I think Disney has a lot of pressure to keep the franchise as it is if they want to continue making a buttload of money with these films.
Right.
The one caveat that Iger mentioned, though, is that they want to carefully brand these Deadpool films and any other R-rated films that they make with the Marvel characters in a separate way from the regular Marvel Studios branding.
Yeah.
So it's possible that it could be kind of like how the Netflix shows are now, where these characters exist within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but they're not referenced to in any way within the Marvel Cinematic Universe proper.
Right.
Which is interesting. I don't think that's a horrible idea for Deadpool. I think it does raise a few questions on how the X-Men would be reacting with both him and the larger cinematic universe.
Right.
I don't want to see the X-Men exist in a separate universe with Deadpool from the Avengers and everybody else.
Yeah, like what they're doing now with Fox, right?
Right.
Just a quick tangent. I've heard that the early screenings for Dark Phoenix have been freaking abysmal.
Yeah, well, we all saw that coming.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I'm excited about this news. I'm really glad that we get to keep R-rated Deadpool. I know one of the biggest concerns that we had when Fox was acquired by Disney was that we would no longer get either any more Deadpool movies, or B, no more R-rated Deadpool movies. And it looks like neither is the case. They're going to continue with the franchise, and they're going to keep it for mature audiences.
Yeah, so everybody wins.
Everybody wins. And we'll just see what happens with the X-Men along the way. There was a brief bit of news that was released on like some Hollywood gossip site about a week and a half ago, saying that Marvel is considering making the Black Widow film an R-rated film.
Right.
Which kind of goes along with this news. And I think that would be pretty interesting. I think if you can make any of the main cinematic universe characters R-rated, Black Widow is a character who's certainly among the top of the list that could pull that off.
Right, right.
And I personally think with the director that they have for Black Widow, I forgot her name, but I know that she directed some pretty freaky thrillers in her time.
Like other rated R films.
Yeah. I think she could pull it off well. So there may be some truth to that rumor about the Black Widow. We'll just see what happens with that. I'd be surprised, honestly, though.
For all we know, that may be the first film released under this banner. And it would get a lot of people to subscribe to this whole idea of having a rated R banner because they want to see the Black Widow movie.
Oh, actually, that's a really good point to bring people in. They could definitely release it under the Marvel Knights banner. I know that's what they did for Punisher Warzone and for Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I forgot about that.
They might do that.
Or
again.
maybe Marvel Max or something. Whatever it is, the Marvel logo has to be really small and Max has to be really big.
Yeah. But yeah, that is it for that news. Let's go ahead and move on to the news about Justice League and the Fatal Five.
Yeah, so we got our first trailer for Justice League versus the Fatal Five. I think previous promo materials were just behind the scenes kind of things, just introducing the team.
Yeah.
It is an interesting Justice League team that they're giving us here. It's the Trinity plus Mr. Terrific, Miss Martian, Starboy, and the Green Lantern Jessica Cruz, who's a new Green Lantern.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure who Jessica Cruz is, really.
And honestly, I haven't read too many comics with her. I know she has a lot of fans. She seems kind of like the new Kyle Rayner in a way.
I liked Kyle Rayner.
Yeah, me too, because he was the Green Lantern when I started reading comics, but he's not really in the comics anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't know who Starboy was either. I guess he's one of the Legion of Superheroes, judging from his flight ring.
Yeah, but he was also a member of the JSA as well.
Okay.
Starboy's name, I think, is Tom Keller, and he could increase the gravity and density of different objects. It's interesting that this is sort of done in the Justice League Unlimited style. It's definitely not the new DC animated universe.
Yeah, it's really cool to hear Kevin Conroy's voice as Batman again, and everything like that.
Yeah, and also as Susan Eisenberg as Wonder Woman and George Newbern as Superman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, from the old series. So that is cool to hear them because those are sort of the iconic voices that you think of when you hear those characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so the trailer starts off with Starboy trying to stop this orb from coming to Earth, right? And it turns out it's a spaceship when the Justice League are examining it. And
well, it seems like the spaceship came from the future. I think maybe Starboy followed it from the future into the present timeline.
Right, he definitely seems displaced in time.
Yeah.
Right. It also seems like he got amnesia in the process or something like that. I don't know what's going on there.
It seems like the Fatal Five, they want Green Lantern for some reason. They want Jessica Cruz.
Yeah, it seems that way. I think they mentioned in the behind the scenes that, they're looking for her power battery, I guess. And I'm not sure for what reason. We do get to see the Fatal Five right away. They break out of their prison once they realize there was a ship. And the Fatal Five, these guys are insanely powerful. It's a great team up for the Justice League.
I think I remember seeing a comic of yours that had the Fatal Five in it. It was an Ed McGuinness cover, and it was the Fatal Five fighting against Superman.
Yeah, each one of these members of the Fatal Five are powerful enough to destroy a planet, essentially. So this is a huge, massive, massive threat. One of the characters, I think his name is Vladius or something like that, he's powerful enough to crack a planet with his fist. He's way stronger than Superman. I think he's the strongest character in DC Comics.
Really?
Yeah, it's insane. He's 12 times stronger than Superman.
Wow. Is that the guy with the brain for a head?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you have someone like Mono who's touch can destroy a planet. It's just ridiculously powerful. So I'm pretty interested. There's a lot of quick snippets of action that we're seeing here. So we know it's definitely going to be action packed. And I can't wait to see how each character showcases their power. We do get a snippet of Starboy's power. And of course Mr. Terrific has his T-spheres.
Yeah, I do like the lineup. I do like the villains. I guess the concept seems pretty interesting, so this should be a pretty good film, especially since I'm such a big fan of the old animated series as well.
I'm actually surprised that you like the lineup, because honestly, when I first saw the lineup, I was like, eh.
No, I mean, I guess I'm a big fan of Mr. Terrific. I've always thought his power set was pretty interesting. I thought it was interesting as a character.
Yeah,
and
but like Miss Martian?
I don't mind Miss Martian.
Yeah, I guess she does have a little bit more character than Martian Manhunter for these films. You know? She could play like the teenager kind of role.
Well, it seems that way in these trailers, yeah.
I mean, if it were up to me, you would use like the classic Jon Stewart Hawk Girl lineup, because I actually really liked that lineup. And it's the lineup that's in the Justice League comics right now, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But based on this trailer, you know, it does have me intrigued. I definitely want to see the film. Can't wait till it comes out.
When does it come out?
So it's getting a digital release on March 30th, and the Blu-ray release is on April 16th.
Oh, just around the corner then.
Yeah, so the last time we did a DC animated film review, we did it during the digital release. And
yeah, that was Reign of the Superman.
Yeah, I think we're going to wait until the Blu-ray release to review this one.
Okay.
Because the day of the Blu-ray release, Reign of the Superman actually came out on the DC Universe app. So I didn't have to pay for it. So I think we'll wait to review this again until the week after it comes out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, that works for me.
But that's really it for that news. In other DC news, an Aquaman spin-off film based on The Trench is in the works at Warner Brothers.
Why?
Kill me now. What is going on? What is happening? They're saying it's not going to have any of the cast members or any of the characters from the Aquaman film. I don't understand what goes through some people's heads, to be honest.
I mean, this is never going to see the light of day. If we're talking
it better not.
Here.
I mean, it does have writers attached to it. Noah Gardner and Aidan Fitzgerald. I don't think they've done anything previously. Like, they've worked as assistants for Bad Robot, which is J.J. Abrams' production company.
But The Trench, were they even big enough characters? Were they appealing and popular enough characters within the Aquaman film to warrant their own spin-off?
Absolutely not. Like, they're saying this is going to be like a low-budget horror film. So I don't know if this is going to be like the history of The Trench or if they're just making a horror film. And if you're going to make a horror film, don't call it The Trench. Don't make it an Aquaman spin-off film.
Just call it the Meg 2.
Exactly. The little Megmites.
The little Megs. Shut up, Meg.
That'd be hilarious. Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this. I agree. I don't think it's ever going to see the light of day. If it does, I'm just going to straight up punch a fish right in the face. Right in the face. This all brings us to our question of the week. What is a spin-off film for a character in a Marvel or DC film that you actually want to see, that you most want to see, right?
Yeah, so it's a character that has appeared in a Marvel or DC film that has not yet had their own movie. What is that movie that you want to see?
Yeah, and try not to make it a character that we know already has a film in development, like Black Widow.
Right, exactly. So post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media.
So moving right away to the next topic, Doom Patrol has given us our first look at Mr. Nobody in their latest trailer.
Yeah, it's a pretty short trailer. I would almost just call it a teaser because I think it's the first live action footage that we've gotten, I think, besides, them actually making their appearance in the Titan show.
Well, we also had a Christmas kind of video.
Oh,
if you remember that, we talked about that when that came out.
Yeah, that's right.
So we've had to look at all of these characters before. We do get to see them showcasing their powers for the first time.
A little bit.
We see Crazy Jane doing some electricity blast to these two guys in a hallway. And we also see Robot Man lift two guys up and slam them into a wall. But we also see them just chilling out, watching Netflix in a hotel room.
The tone of this series seems drastically different from the Titan show, and this is pretty much a comedy.
It is. It's supposed to be. That's definitely how they're trying to sell it.
Yeah.
They're like, who are we? Are we really the best people to be going up against, these villains? And of course, Cyborg's like, oh, hell no. To me, this very much seems like poor man's Guardians of the Galaxy.
A little bit. Yeah, definitely. Cheap Guardians of the Galaxy.
Exactly.
Not all the jokes land, though. I wouldn't say that this is funny, because there's a moment where Robot Man asks Cyborg, he's like, do you have a photocopier in there? And he's like, no. And then Robot Man says, is it in your butt? I bet it's in his butt.
And just the irony of a robot asking another, robot character if they have all these gadgets. Cyborg could be saying the same thing to Robot Man.
Right.
It just, again, yeah, you're right. It doesn't work. It falls flat. Not funny.
I do think that Mr. Nobody looks pretty interesting.
He looks really interesting. Like, the special effects on him was really cool. I was really interested to see how they were going to portray this character, because in the comics, he's like flat, right?
Right.
He's like
like
2D.
Like a question mark almost. Well, that's what he looks like to me, is like a question mark with eyeballs. Like for a face.
Yeah,
question mark.
It's kind of like a Spartan helmet, but there's negative space to it, right?
Right.
So he's not like completely formed, and he's definitely not in this trailer. But Alan Tudyk, he's just a phenomenal actor. I think if anyone's going to bring the comedy, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
When he's like, just what everyone needs, more superheroes.
Was that his voice narrating the thing?
Well, that's what I thought, because it kind of sounds like his voice. And I know he does like a lot of voice work. He's a big, voice actor for Disney and everything like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was narrating it, or even like the narrator of the show, honestly.
Yep.
The show comes out this week, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the day after Valentine's Day on February 15th.
Oh,
so
just
in
a
the
few
next
days.
Yeah, the next episode, I'll be giving my first impressions of the pilot, like what we did for Titans.
Okay. We'll have to come up with a dual episode with one of these characters too later.
Yeah, we've already done one with Cyborg. But yeah, there's quite a few other characters that, we have to choose from, so.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that does it for all the news for this episode. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the main event, where we find out who would win in a fight between Steel and War Machine.
Okay, so Steel versus War Machine. As we mentioned earlier, we're pitting these characters against each other now because, one of them was in Reign of the Superman and one of them will be in Avengers Endgame, but they have a lot of similarities, I think, that makes this a good match.
Yeah, they have a whole lot in common. They're both tech-based armored heroes, and it being Black History Month, we thought this would be a good matchup for that. They're both really smart, practically indestructible, and have a whole lot of firepower on their sides. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to our podcast before or one of these duel episodes before, the way we find out who would win is statistics. So there's no bias, no fan votes, no uncharacteristic feats of strength. It's just all stats all the time.
So yeah, we take these stats and we run them along a Monte Carlo simulation that places them along a normal distribution, which is essentially a bell curve. So this randomization of the numbers represents all the variables that take place during battle. But the base stat is what everything is based off of.
Yeah, and so we run these simulations to essentially compare all the different random numbers that we get, and we do this 1,000 times to simulate 1,000 matches.
Right, and the stats that we get are taken from the Marvel official power rankings grid, which you can look at by going onto marvel.com, and we extrapolate the DC stats from those numbers along those criteria, and we also add a few other stats along the way.
Right, and we add those to make a more robust simulation.
Right, exactly.
No character ever wins 100% of the matches. There's always a way for one character to defeat another, and that's sort of what the randomization simulates.
Yeah, exactly. After running the simulations, we get back a percentage of wins for each character that, of course, add up to 100%, but the person with the higher percentage of wins, we declare the overall victor.
Yeah, and this is the same approach, of course, that TV shows like The Deadliest Warrior that used to be on Spike TV like over 10 years ago have used in their own simulations. And the Monte Carlo method is also used, in video game AI and in business risk analysis. It's known for being accurate, essentially.
It's a scientific approach to fairly answer the question of who would win.
Exactly. But before we run the statistics, we like to give a background on each of the characters and explain their profiles and their histories and their powers, just so people are more familiar with the characters.
Yeah, I think you go first this time with Steel.
Right, so Steel has come up a few times in other bios, and, of course, during our review of Reign of the Superman. If you're not familiar with him, Dr. John Henry Irons, who was named after the hammer-driving folklore legend, was raised in Washington, D.C. He was inspired by John Henry and became interested in foraging and construction, and grew up to be a brilliant engineer. Recruited by a military-industrial firm named Amertech, John Henry designed advanced mobile weapons for the company for years, until he learned that Amertech was corrupt and selling the weapons to criminals. In an attempt to stop and escape the company, John Henry destroyed his notes, faked his death, and moved to Metropolis, where he worked as a construction worker under the fake name Henry Johnson. While working atop a skyscraper, John Henry fell and would have certainly died if Superman had not saved him. When John Henry told Superman he owed him his life, Superman replied that he should then make sure his life counted for something. Moved by Superman's words, John Henry couldn't stand idly by as Superman was being beaten to death by the unstoppable monster known as Doomsday, who you can learn more about in our Doomsday vs. Hulk episode. He picked up his sledgehammer, but was buried in rubble among the devastation before he could help. He eventually pulled himself from the rubble to learn not only that Superman had died, but also that Metropolis street gangs, now unopposed by Superman, were wielding modified versions of his own Amertech advanced weapon designs. He took action and forged a suit of indestructible tech-based armor in honor of Superman's memory, with the intent of protecting the streets of Metropolis from the gang wars that were erupting. He was dubbed the Man of Steel by the local media, and for a time, Lois Lane was convinced that John Henry really was Clark Kent returned from the dead, due to his demeanor being the closest to the real Superman of the three other replacements that had arrived on the scene, namely Superboy, the Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman. But unlike those three, John Henry never claimed to be the original Superman. While tracking down Amertech weapons, he had a run-in with the Eradicator, who John Henry witnessed kill one of the weapon-wielding criminals. John Henry and the Eradicator fought to a standstill in a battle that landed them on the opposite side of the country in California. Lacking the energy reserve at the time to fly back to Metropolis, John Henry had to book a plane back, at which point he was ambushed by Amertech agents. He fended off the agents and forced one of them, actually his ex-girlfriend, to take him to the plant that was creating the weapons. The plant was booby-trapped, however, and it was destroyed in an explosion that John Henry managed to escape. Superman returned from death shortly after, which you can learn more about in our Superman vs. Dr. Doom episode, and John Henry helped him stop Cyborg Superman and Mongul from turning Earth into a planetary weapon known as Warworld. Superman shortened John Henry's superhero moniker from Man of Steel to simply Steel, and together they succeeded in taking down Cyborg Superman, though Steel's armor was destroyed in the process. With life back to normal, John Henry returned to his hometown of Washington, D.C., where his family lived, including his grandmother Bess, and his nieces and nephews, including Jamal, Tyke, and Natasha. Once he arrived in DC, he quickly learned that his Amertech weapons were being sold on the streets, and so he forged new, stronger armor to protect the public and his family. He was eventually able to bring down the gangs and Amertech, though his nephew Tyke was paralyzed due to his brother Jamal's involvement with the gangs. John Henry soon learned that there was an organization behind Amertech and the gangs the whole time that was known as Black Ops. By this time, thanks to an off-world mission with fellow hero Maxima, Steel had gained the ability to teleport portions of his armor on and off, and eventually he learned to teleport his entire self. He used this newfound ability to take down Black Ops and its leader, the supervillain Hazard, though his secret identity was revealed as a result. Once that happened, supervillains such as Parasite and Dr. Polaris attacked his family, killing John Henry's grandmother Bess. His family was forced to go into hiding, during which time John Henry's armor took on a life of its own, a result of the strange abilities it derived from his time off-world. The armor transformed into an animated monster, though John Henry was able to purge the alien virus infecting it and regained his standard, non-teleporting armor. John Henry returned to Metropolis with his niece Natasha after serving a brief stint as a hospital administrator in Jersey City. In Metropolis, he and Natasha opened a techno foundry known as Steelworks, where they were able to develop non-lethal metahuman control technology for the Metropolis police force. During this time, Batman recruited Steel into the Justice League of America, and he was put in charge of the League's reserve team, which at the time consisted of Plastic Man, Barda, Zariel, and Huntress, the latter of whom you can learn more about in our Huntress vs. Jessica Jones episode. Steel seemingly died in the Justice League satellite watchtower while unleashing Doomsday to help battle an unstoppable planet-destroying villain known as Imperiex. However, Steel's body was captured by the Black Racer, who was the new god of death, and was taken to Apokolips, where Darkseid revived him and placed him in a new suit of armor called the Entropy Aegis, which was made from an Imperiex probe and Apocalyptic tech. Darkseid originally made the armor for Superman in order to stop Imperiex from destroying Apocalypse, but Superman refused. With the Entropy Aegis, Steel had godlike powers. He could increase his size, teleport, withstand cosmic level attacks, fire massive beams of energy, and he was stronger than Superman. Steel was able to help stop Imperiex with the armor, which he continued to wear almost a year afterward, though he became increasingly dependent and unstable while wearing it. It became clear the armor was feeding on his soul, and, to no one's surprise, that he was under the influence of Darkseid. So Superman traveled to Apocalypse with Steel and challenged Darkseid to combat in an effort to get him to remove the armor. Superman won the battle, and Darkseid returned John Henry to the dying state he was in when he unleashed Doomsday. Superman rushed John Henry back to Earth, and while he recovered, his niece Natasha took up the Steel mantle for a time. John Henry stayed mostly retired for a time until he was infected with an exogene mutagen by Lex Luthor that gave John Henry Steel skin. The effect wasn't permanent, but he formed a team called Infinity Inc. with his niece Natasha and others who had been affected by Lex Luthor's exogene therapy. In the New 52, John Henry was a scientist working for General Sam Lane, Lois Lane's father, on the government's Steel Soldier program. He developed a suit of cybernetic armor codenamed Metal Zero, but he quit his job when he found General Lane's consultant, Lex Luthor, torturing Superman under the General's orders, and that the Metal Zero suit was going to be used by a soldier named John Corbin, who would later be known as Metallo, to defeat Superman. When Metallo went on a rampage in the cybernetic suit, John Henry donned new armor of his own design to help stop Metallo. Now, this suit didn't have a helmet or a cape, though he eventually upgraded his armor to look more like the pre-New 52 design, this time using a liquid metal that could coat his skin and be transferred to others for their protection. Now, Steel has no natural powers currently, other than his genius-level intellect, which he's used to design and create an indestructible suit of armor that's primarily solar-powered, though it could also absorb like heat and electricity. This allows him to fly via jet-powered boots and increases his strength to about 70 tons. His suit also has a firewall-protected computer control system that feeds him analytics and information of his environment and targets, and allows him to interact with other computer systems. His original suit had a wrist-mounted rivet gun, though he would later upgrade that to a cannon that could fire rubber bullets, metal spikes, or sonic grenades. His primary weapon, however, is a remote-controlled kinetic hammer with a telescopic handle that is able to absorb and store kinetic energy and release it upon impact. It also contains electromagnetic components that allow him to store the hammer on his back and also generate electromagnetic pulses or lock its position within the Earth's magnetic field, making the hammer virtually impossible to move, unless Steel deems you worthy. And that's Steel.
Oh, War Machine is worthy, for sure.
I don't know.
You should see some of the tricks that he's pulled with Mjolnir. We'll get into that later.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
War Machine, as we all know, is Tony Stark's best buddy. He's just a real selfless dude that has put up with so much shit through Tony Stark that you just can't help but love the guy and his resolve. So James Rhodes, aka Rhodey, was born in Philadelphia and grew up to be a U.S. Marine Corps pilot. He was sent on a reconnaissance mission in Afghanistan when his helicopter was shot out of the sky by enemy rockets. He survived the crash and was attempting to repair the copter when he was discovered by Tony Stark, who at the time was fleeing his terrorist captors in his first ever Iron Man suit, the Mark I. With the enemy forces hot on his trail, Rhodey let Tony recharge his armor using the helicopter's batteries, and Iron Man was able to defend them against the subsequent attack, though still not able to get them to the American defense perimeter. Together, they trekked and found a hidden enemy installation where they stole another helicopter and got to safety. Upon their return to the United States, Tony offered Rhodey a job as his personal pilot and chief aviation engineer at Stark Industries, which he accepted. The two became fast friends, and Rhodey was one of Tony's only confidants who was aware of his secret identity of Iron Man. which was lucky for Stark because Rhodey proved to be a valuable asset in getting his friend out of trouble against foes such as Justin Hammer and others who strove to steal or defeat Iron Man, who was billed by Stark Industries as a special weapons project. After Tony's battle with alcoholism led to Obadiah Stane, aka the Ironmonger, successfully usurping Stark Industries, Tony had all his suits destroyed except one. Unable to pilot the suit in his condition, Rhodey stepped up and took over as Iron Man and helped Tony get his company back. It was in his role as Iron Man that Rhodey helped found the West Coast Avengers branch alongside Hawkeye and Vision, and also fought in the secret wars that had been orchestrated by the Beyonder. Rhodey became so adept at using the suit that when eventually Tony became sober again and reclaimed the Iron Man mantle, the newly established Stark Enterprises built a specially designed suit of armor for Rhodey known as the War Machine armor. Rhodey rejoined the West Coast Avengers in his new suit while Tony served on the New York-based team, and after the West Coast branch disbanded, Rhodey helped create a new team called ForceWorks. For a period, Rhodey traveled back in time with S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Shiva Josephs to stop a time-traveling neo-Nazi from supplying modern arms to World War II Nazi Germany. Though they were successful, Rhodey lost the War Machine armor in time and retired from superheroics. For a while, he wore an alien suit of armor called the Edolan Warwear that was granted to him by aliens to protect the Earth from Kang the Conqueror, but the alien technology was destroyed when Rhodey uploaded the suit into a computer system to keep Tony's Iron Man data out of the hands of his competitors. Rhodey again took a break from superheroics and started his own marine salvage company, but helped defend the streets of Brooklyn after forming a team called the Crew. After the events of House of M and Marvel's Civil War, where most of the mutant population was depowered and the superhero community was divided, the US government created the Office of National Emergency, called ONE for its acronym. They put Rhodey in charge of the program as the direct command officer and combat instructor for its human-piloted Sentinel program, which was retooled at the time to help keep the peace during the time of the Superhero Registration Initiative. During this, he was critically injured in a plane explosion and lost both of his arms and legs.
What?
Tony was able to help save his life using cybernetic enhancements, effectively turning Rhodey into a cyborg. During the Secret Invasion event, Rhodey helped fight the invading Skrull Armada by taking command of a space station designed by Tony that could transform into a giant suit of space armor. Rhodey's mind was eventually placed into a cloned body of his created by one of Tony's secret R&D facilities set up to assist and repair Rhodey should anything ever happen to him.
Wow.
With a new lease on life, Rhodes joined Captain America's Strike Force team known as the Secret Avengers and later went to work for the US government in an effort by him and Tony to keep the military from trying to build their own Iron Man suit. They did, however, have an army of Iron Patriot drones left over from Norman Osborn's takeover of S.H.I.E.L.D. in the Dark Reign story arc. The drones gained sentience through a villain named Metallo, though Rhodey convinced them
I'm sorry, Metallo?
Mentallo.
Oh, okay.
And Rhodey convinced them to stand down. In turn, the drones developed a new suit of armor for him, and he became the Iron Patriot, who now commanded the Legion of Drones. During this time, he became romantically involved with Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel. Rhodey was later killed by Thanos, who came to Earth looking for the Cosmic Cube, an event that was predicted by an inhuman seer named Ulysses Kane. It was his death that divided Carol and Tony on how to utilize Ulysses' power and led to the second superhero Civil War. During that event, Tony reprogrammed his DNA in order to operate his latest suit of armor, an act that eventually saved his own life when he was critically injured. So by this time he was almost more machine than man. Curious, Tony exhumed Rhodey's body and made the same genetic modifications, effectively bringing Rhodey to life in a sort of high-tech Frankenstein kind of way.
Yeah.
Rhodey no longer wears the War Machine armor, but now pilots Stark's Manticore vehicle, which is like a big-ass tank that has flight and submersible capabilities. But for the purposes of this fight, he's going to be in a suit of armor, not a vehicle. Abilities-wise, he's similar to Iron Man, though he sacrifices some of the more high-tech abilities in exchange for raw firepower. Rhodes in the War Machine armor has superhuman strength with the capability to lift up to 100 tons, enhanced speeds up to supersonic, flight, near imperviousness, magnetic systems, enhanced life support systems, and remote communications access. Offensively, he wields the powerful Unibeam laser, repulsor blasters, wrist-mounted automatic machine guns, sonic cannons, a Gatling gun on his left shoulder, and an energy signature locking rocket launcher on his right. Housed within his armor's many compartments are other offensive weapons such as bombs, shotguns, grenades. You name it, he's got it. He's a Swiss Army knife like Iron Man, but with much more real-world militaristic weaponry.
Isn't Frank Castle wearing the armor right now in the comics?
No, when Rhodey died, Frank Castle did don the War Machine armor for a time, and then when Rhodey was brought back to life, he confronted Punisher and convinced him to remove it.
Okay. Once again, I'm always surprised by different things within these characters profiles that are so similar to each other.
Yeah,
Like,
except in this case, Rhodey came out first, so John Henry Irons is the ripoff. Way to rip off Marvel, DC. Once again.
For like the first time ever.
All right, so now that we've gone over each character's history and powers, what we like to do is we like to kind of improvise and speculate on a scenario in which the two fight and how we think that would actually pan out. We don't set up any rules for this speculation. We do say that the characters start about 50 yards apart and have no knowledge of each other than the fact that they know that the other is a threat that needs to be put down. We also don't consider the environment at all, considering that we don't take stats for the environment for the simulations.
Right, it's too big of a variable.
Exactly. One character can win in one environment, like 100% of the time, and lose 100% of the time in another environment in some cases. So we just say that the environment does not play a factor in these battles. So yeah, they start off 50 yards apart in a non-environment. Who goes first? I'm going to actually say that War Machine goes first this time, because you always fucking go first, because I always say who goes first and I let you answer. So War Machine is going to go first.
Okay.
And basically he's going to be scanning Steel's tech.
And Steel will be doing the same.
Right. But, it's only going to take a second. Right away, War Machine is going to thrust into battle, and he's going to pull out both his Gatling gun and his rocket launcher. You should just assume that at all points during this battle, that Gatling gun is just going round after round, like 1,000 rounds a minute.
He doesn't have that many bullets.
He has that many bullets for the purposes of this fight.
Okay.
And Steel is just getting pelted nonstop by these bullets, by these high caliber bullets.
Oh, okay. So they're firing at Steel, and they're just like ting, 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 just like bouncing off of him.
No, I mean, they're a distraction at the very least.
They're not even that.
What are you talking about?
They affect him like in no way. It may as well just be like Rhodey throwing sand at him.
He's shooting his eye holes in the suit.
Yeah, his whole face is covered by like a liquid metal.
Even his eyeballs?
Yes.
Well, that's what he's shooting, and so it's making it really hard. Like the ricochet and the sparks, making it hard for Steel to see during this entire match.
Not really.
Just so you know.
Because like his suit like is meant to mimic Superman's like super senses.
Okay.
Right? So he has like telescopic vision and like hearing with his suit's computer systems. So yeah, sparks, he's gonna be able to see through those.
If you say
He can see like
bullshit.
through the entire electromagnetic spectrum.
Whatever.
So yeah, he's just standing there. He's like, "Are you fucking kidding me? Bullets? I use this shit for breakfast."
Okay, well, as War Machine's still flying towards him and, shooting towards him, he also fires a rocket from his heat-seeking rocket launcher that's on his back. It's like a big missile launcher. And boom! Just explodes right onto Steel again.
Okay, so right when War Machine like locks onto Steel, his sensors tell him that he's being locked on. So he fires up his rocket boots and launches into the air, dodging the rocket.
No, it's locked onto him, so even if Steel dodges it, the rocket's gonna come right back towards him.
Yeah, but he does it like really late, so it just crashes into the ground. Like it's not gonna like stop in midair and then like go after him,
Okay.
But Steel's hammer can do that. So that's when he throws his hammer at Rhodey, and now that is locked on him.
Okay. So War Machine sees this giant hammer flying towards him, okay, and he activates his unibeam and he shoots the hammer and it knocks it off of its trajectory, so it goes off course and goes, beside him and doesn't hit him.
But even if it gets knocked off course, it's remote controlled. It can just readjust its course.
Okay.
So it adjusts its course and like slams right into War Machine's back, like real hard, plowing him like right into the ground.
Okay. All right. I guess the Steel hammer does have a lot of damage potential to it.
It has a lot of heft to it,
yeah,
for sure.
So it would hurt Rhodey pretty bad on his back, and he gets slammed into the ground. He gets back up, and he's probably pretty pissed at that just happened. So what he does is he fires his unibeam again, except he's going to fire it not at the hammer, but at Steel himself.
Right.
And it's going to like blast a big old hole right in Steel's fucking chest.
Yeah. He's more durable than that. But yeah, he gets hit by it. It knocks him back. He's flying back. He's probably going to land on the ground. His hammer is coming to him. It's chasing after him and goes back into his hand. So as he's like recovering and getting up, he has his hammer again now. But he's gonna hold on to that for a while.
Remember that he's still being shot by the bullets from the Gatling gun.
Oh gosh. Again, that's nothing. It's nothing.
As a matter of fact, I think when Steel got knocked back with the unibeam, War Machine followed up with a few more rockets from his rocket launcher. So
okay.
It's just like nonstop. It's just push, 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 explosions and guns.
Okay, so when Steel like is starting to get up and he sees the rockets coming for him, that's when he takes the hammer that just came into his hand and he extends the handle to like its full length and he just like bats them away like a baseball bat.
The rockets away?
Yeah. And there's explosions, but they hit the hammer and not him. The hammer will also absorb that kinetic energy from the rockets. So now when it hits, it's gonna hit even more powerfully. Like with the power of all of the rockets that just exploded on it.
Oh, shit.
That's right.
Okay.
So Steel winds up, and he throws his hammer at Rhodey again.
Okay, this time, Rhodey knows what to do. So he sees the hammer flying at him, and he uses his magnetic systems, which have blocked Thor's hammer from hitting him before, to stop Steel's hammer.
Really?
Right in its tracks, and make it not able to hit him. He can, like, kind of freeze it in place with his magnetic systems, since it's made out of metal.
Right. But Steel has magnetic control over his hammer as well. That's how he controls it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically it's their magnetic systems kind of fighting for the positioning of this hammer.
Exactly. But the hammer's pretty close to War Machine, so that's when Steel activates its EMP blast and just, like, shuts off War Machine's armor.
No, War Machine and Iron Man have built-in Faraday cages into their suits of armor that render EMP obsolete against them.
Well, Steel doesn't know that.
So at that point, like the EMP goes off and War Machine's like, oh, okay. And then he grabs the hammer that's
like,
right in front of him mid-air. And then
when he's holding it, that's when Steel activates the magnetic pull of it, and he just, like, lifts it into the air, and then, like, sends it crashing back down into the ground.
Dang it. Okay, alright, so War Machine can't really wield that hammer.
No, he's not worthy enough.
Alright, so at this point, I think War Machine is going to just, like, unleash everything. So he's going to shoot the Unibeam and the repulsor blasters. He's got the Gatling gun going. He's got the rocket launcher going. He's got his wrist machine guns going, and they're all just flying toward Steel at the same exact time. And they're, like, pummeling Steel into the ground and, like, making a hole, basically, that he's just, like, falling into.
I mean, Steel doesn't have that level of firepower. Like, he doesn't shoot lasers or anything like that. But, I mean, he's fast. He could go, supersonic speed. So he's just, like, flying around, just trying to dodge all of these attacks.
Even the heat-seeking attacks?
Well, yeah, he could outfly those missiles.
But War Machine is locked onto Steel. It doesn't matter where he flies. He's going to lock onto him.
Exactly. So he's being locked on. He's dodging all this stuff. He flies towards War Machine, right?
Oh, he's flying toward where the blasts are coming from.
He's flying towards War Machine's back, all right?
Back?
Yeah. It's behind him, so,
War Machine spins around.
Well, then Steel just keeps going around in a circle, closer and closer, until he could reach War Machine's back, at which point he, like, grabs him, spins him around, uses him as a shield, and has all the missiles just slam into War Machine.
Okay, well, at this point, so Steel is grabbing onto War Machine. War Machine just got blasted with his missiles. He's a little rocked, but he grabs onto Steel's hands and then flies up into the air and then inverts and spirals downward, body slamming Steel right into the ground.
Steel would have done something as they were flying around.
It was too fast!
No, he would have activated his own jet boots so that, like, as they were about to hit the ground, he alters, like, the path that they were flying towards, and now they're just, like, spinning and twisting in the air, just, like, punching each other.
Okay? And then War Machine throws Steel onto the ground and then drops, like, a megaton bomb right onto Steel.
A megaton bomb? Really?
Yeah.
Like, he has that.
Is a megaton bomb a nuclear bomb? Okay, no, yeah, just a really powerful bomb. So, like, Steel is just, like, flattened on the ground, like in a big crater next to his hammer.
Okay, I mean, but, like, if we're establishing it's not, like, a nuclear bomb, like, Steel's been hit by that before. Like, he's gone up against, like, really big heavy hitters before. So, yeah, he's down, he's in a crater, but he's not out.
Okay, but War Machine is coming back for him.
And that's when he fires off a few sonic grenades right at War Machine.
Oh, sonic grenades that do nothing? Okay, yeah.
Rubber bullets. Shit. Steel spikes. Shit. So that's when Steel, like, all of his wrist-mounted weaponry isn't working. He's watching War Machine coming for him. And as War Machine is like, ah!
Again, Steel shooting the Gatling gun and the rockets.
Yeah. Steel's hammer comes from a surprise out of nowhere and just plows right into War Machine's arc reactor. And remember, like, all of that missile energy that he had stored up in the hammer? Boom. All right there in the chest area.
Well, that doesn't knock out his power systems, I wouldn't think, or does it? Well, unlike the movie, I don't think that would actually knock out his power systems. It would knock out his power source, but War Machine has battery power. He has battery cells, basically. So I think he would have at least some energy left to drop another megaton bomb that finishes this whole damn thing.
Jeez.
But yeah, we'll go ahead and leave the match there, and we'll see who comes out on top by running the simulations, and we'll find out if Rhodey's second megaton bomb knocked out Steel, or if War Machine was already knocked out by Steel's hammer. So let's go ahead and run the stats, and we'll come back to you with a winner. All right, so how do these guys compare? In compiling the stats, we found a lot of similarities. And
They're basically the same person.
with only a few minor differences.
Yeah, very minor. We said that War Machine
is a slightly better fighter since he has a trained military background and Steel does not.
Right. But we also said Steel was more intelligent than War Machine, considering Steel is an engineering genius. He's basically DC's Tony Stark.
Yeah, he's more akin to the intelligence level of Tony Stark than Rhodey.
Right.
Rhodey's no dummy, but he's just not at that level. I think the other difference that we saw between the two was that...
War Machine was stronger.
Yes.
Just barely, though.
Right.
Yeah, it was almost negligible.
Right, because War Machine is often stated as having a strength between 70 and 100 tons, although I usually put him at 100, because going off of feats, they typically demonstrate strength levels at the higher end.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, in terms of speed, they're comparable. In terms of how much damage that they can do, they're pretty damn comparable as well, considering how powerful Steel's hammer is.
Yeah, I mean, Steel is definitely much more minimal, I guess, than War Machine.
He doesn't have all those bells and whistles.
Exactly. But what he does have is very effective.
Yeah, and durability, these guys are just, they're invincible out to the max almost. And they're both, not great dodgers. They let a lot of attacks just hit them, so none of them have, high evasive stats.
Right, they don't really need it because they're indestructible.
Right, exactly.
So considering that the stats are so close, who do you think came out on top?
I think War Machine came out on top.
Why?
Because I feel it in my heart. I feel like this is going to be almost a coin toss, but I think I landed on heads on this one.
It is a coin toss, one of the closest matches we've ever had, actually.
Uh-huh.
So we ran 1,000 simulations, and the winner was War Machine.
Yeah, baby!
Damn it! He won 503 out of the 1,000 matches.
What?
Exactly.
So Steel won 497.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
50.3% to 49.7%.
that's right.
Wow.
So don't revel too much.
Oh, I will celebrate.
Because it was really close.
I will celebrate.
You're lucky Steel didn't win this. Really lucky.
War Machine laid the smack down.
Yeah, right. That's not at all what happened. He barely won. Barely. If I would have run this again, I could have won. You know?
No, you wouldn't though.
Yeah, we don't do that. We only run the simulation once, just out of fairness.
Yeah, and that's what we stick with. This is going in the Marvel record books. We're making our comeback, and I don't think we're ever going to lose ever again.
You poor thing. So yeah, that does it for this match. In our next episode, we will be doing a throwback review of the film Steel, just to tie into this episode. Of course, if you've seen Steel, we all know what a piece of crap movie it is. It was starring Shaquille O'Neal. It was barely a Steel movie.
It came out in 1997, I think.
Yeah, 97.
Yeah.
We're going to be joined by our good friend John Horsley III of the Spoiler Country podcast for this review. He was also there for the Man of Steel review.
Right.
So.
Yeah, he's a big DC fanboy, but he's a really funny dude. Have lots of fun talking to him. So it should be a good time just, ripping this movie to shreds, unless, of course, John likes the movie, which is entirely possible because, he's liked bad movies in the past. So it should be fun either way.
Right.
But look forward to that next week. In the meantime, go ahead and visit dynamicduel.com to check out links to all of our social media profiles, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Go ahead and find us on there, and you can let us know what you thought about the results of this War Machine versus Steel match.
Yeah, and also on that website, you can find a link to our merchandise store, which has, various t-shirts and mugs and different other merchandise. I'm trying to think of something unique because we always say t-shirt and mugs. There's a bunch of stuff on there.
Banners.
Notebooks. And
stickers.
Stickers? Yeah, stickers are cool. Stickers are really cool. But it's all artwork done for our no prizes that we do every week. So if you've seen a no prize and you like the artwork, there's merchandise for that artwork, so make sure to check that out.
Yeah, who are you going to draw this time, Steel or War Machine?
Probably War Machine. Man, that's going to be really difficult.
And then you're going to draw Steel next week?
Yeah, I'll draw Steel next week.
Yeah, definitely check out the store and check out that artwork, guys. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes and Apple Podcasts. Again, we're trying to hit that 200 ratings mark so that we could become critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Every rating counts.
And it doesn't take long to rate. It takes 5 seconds.
Yeah. I think last time I said whenever you get a chance. But
I think that was a mistake.
That nobody rated us in the past week, I'm going to say just do it now and get it over with. The quicker we get to 200, the quicker we can stop talking about this. So go ahead and do that, guys. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Up, and away.
True believers.